Hey Pop Kids, my name is Micah. I hang out with the older folks, and by older I mean middle and high school. And I want to tell you a story about Jesus, but before I do, I need to set it up. So during Jesus' time on earth, he traveled from town to town teaching all of these people about God. It was basically a giant road trip. And often he would tell parables, tell people understand an important truth. Now, parables are these short stories about everyday objects or people and familiar situations. Jesus' stories made people think for themselves and understand things about God and life in general. One day, Jesus was speaking to a giant crowd of people, right? And he was teaching them about God. And there was this man, and he called out to Jesus and he said, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me." Now, apparently, this man was having some kind of argument with his brother, which I also get into, and he wanted to make sure that he got his share of the things that their family owned. And he hoped that Jesus would take his side and tell his brother to give him some of what they had. But Jesus actually said, "Friend, who sent me here to be a judge or arbitrator over you? Take care, be on your guard against all kinds of greed, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions." And so then Jesus went on to tell a story about what he meant. Jesus was telling a story about a rich man who had a bunch of land and produced a lot of crops. And this meant that they had plenty to eat. And the man wondered, "What should I do? I have no place to store my crops," right? You see, this guy had so much extra food that he didn't even have a place to store it. And the man didn't share the extra grain. Instead, he said, "I will pull down my barns and build larger ones. And there I will store all of my grain and all of my goods. And I will say to my soul, 'Soul, you have ample goods, laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry.'" The man figured that he would be fine if he stored up all of this grain for himself. He could take it easy, he could relax, and he wouldn't have to worry about a thing. But God said, "You fool, this very night your life is being demanded of you, and the things that you have prepared, whose will they be?" So it is with those who store up their treasures for themselves, but are not rich towards God. What does this story mean, right? Well, Jesus is telling this story to a man who wanted to get his share of his family's property. And Jesus knew that this man was being greedy and wanted to get more things for himself. And so Jesus told this story to help the man understand something that's really, really important. Everything that we own comes from God. We shouldn't just keep our stuff for ourselves. We should be willing to share it. Our stuff should never keep us from being generous. One of the best ways that we can show responsibility is by sharing what God has given to us. The bottom line for this week is share what you have. Because sharing is actually caring. I know that's a kind of hokey phrase, but it's true. When you share your toys with somebody else, or when you share love for somebody else, you're sharing and you're caring about them. It doesn't matter how much you have or how much you own or how many Skittles you have. What matters is loving about others. So don't do what the man in this story did and hoard all of your stuff. Instead, share it and love each other.